tell you that it's so important to talk about what God is doing, power of God, how God is operating in the earth today.
Biological.
Nor shall I here discuss the various definitions which have been given to the term species. No one definition has yet satisfied all naturalists, yet every naturalist knows vaguely what he means when he speaks of a species. I have just been comparing the definitions of species. It is really laughable to see what different ideas are prominent in various naturalist minds when they speak of species. In some, resemblance is everything and descent of little weight. In some, resemblance seems to go for nothing. And creation, the reigning idea. In some, descent is the key. In some, sterile and a failing test. With others, it is not worth a farthing. It all comes down, I believe, from trying to define the undefinable.
What is a species? Darwinian evolutionists define a species by means to produce fertile offspring, but there are problems with this definition. Take the quanna, for example. The quanna is an extinct mammal that looked like a zebra, but had stripes only on its head, neck and forebody. The quanna lived in Africa until the late animal was shot in the late 1870s. The last specimen died in 1883 in a zoo. The quanna, named Equanus equana, was originally thought to be a separate species to the plains zebra. Over the last 50 years or so, markings of many individual zebras have been recorded by scientists. Because of the great variation in stripe patterns, taxonomists were left with a problem. Was the quanna a separate species, or was it a type of zebra? The quanna was the first extinct creature to have its DNA studied. Recent research using DNA from preserved specimens has demonstrated that the quanna was not a separate species at all, but a variety of the plains zebra, Equus brucali. The same can be said of the horse and the donkey. Both of these creatures are diverse variants of the same type or kind of animal, and yet both can interbreed and produce sterile offspring. But remember, by Darwinian evolutionist definitions, a species is a creature which can produce fertile offspring. So something which produces an infertile offspring therefore produces a new species, according to the Darwinian definition. But like I said, there is a problem. For example, the classical typological species concept is perhaps the most intuitive and familiar. According to this approach, organisms which look similar are grouped into a species. The typological species concept falls short, however, when faced with two clearly separate species which look very similar to one another, or when males and females of a single species look very different from each other, as in the Eggletus parrot. So there are many problems with the term species. For example, there's the horizontal gene transfer, in which genes make up different parts of organisms. In fact, humans share at least 8% of our genome is made up of viruses. And then there's the ring species problem, where certain creatures can't actually interbreed, but subspecies, if you like, can, creating an endless chain where there is gene flow. So there is a problem. Does the term species actually exist? It's a question of biodiversity. It's a question which many evolutionists struggle with. For example, was the quanna a new species, or was it a type? Was it a kind of zebra? However you want to look at it, however you want to go about it, we have to face the fact that even if creatures can't breed and they share the same anatomical features or maybe slight variants, they fall under the same categories within families and grouping. This is how the binomial system works, where we give a definition for the smallest classification grouping, and this term is usually given as species. So we start with a kingdom, and we go with a phylum, a class, an order, a family, a genus, and we end with the smallest classification, which is species. But the question is, does a species really exist? At what point does a lion and a tiger stop being a cat? At what point does a pheasant and a chicken stop being a fowl? At what point does a dog and a wolf stop being of the canine family? You see, the taxonomic group works, but when it comes to species, the best we have for the smallest classification of a group is the word kind, exactly as the Bible says. There are over 20 different definitions for the word species. None of them are satisfactory, and even from Darwin's day to today, the word species simply isn't satisfactory.
Ladies and gents, if you like what you've just seen, please check out some of my other videos here below, and remember to click subscribe. Cheers and take care. Biological.